believe in yourselves. If you work hard, if you try hard, if you're curious, if you're willing to learn, if you're passionate and enthusiastic, you will be successful in whatever you choose to do. My name's Lucy England. I work for a company called Arcadis, and Arcadis is a company that specialises in design, engineering and consultancy. So, for example, the bridges, the buildings, the environmental assets that you see around you, we are responsible for designing those projects, for project managing those projects, for costing those projects. So we're very much involved end to end in sort of all things building design, which is why our mission is very much about improving quality of life, because that's what we seek to do. The role that I hold, though, is not a technical role in that sense. I am People Director for the UK and Ireland. My daughter regularly asks me, what does that mean? And trying to explain that to a kind of 10-year-old is quite challenging. But essentially, I suppose I'm responsible for making sure that people that work for our organisation are happy, are engaged, are motivated, because they have the opportunity to work in a great environment that has a great culture, that allows them to bring their best selves to work, that allows them to work on interesting projects, that allows them to have a fulfilling career path, and that ultimately, recognises and rewards the efforts that they make, and tries to ensure that their working experience is as positive as it possibly can be. In the UK, we employ sort of around 4,000 people permanently, but in addition, we work with a number of partners, so people who are self-employed or who are contractors, and then globally, because we are a global business, we employ around 25,000 people. So we're very much an organisation. If people want to have, an international career, which is what we also try to encourage, and that's one of the reasons that they would choose to come and work for us. I really enjoy working with people, and that sounds like a bit of a cliche in terms of being people director, but the reality is you have to be able, what I like about my job is that I have to connect with so many people every single day. It really does rely on strong communication skills. You're doing lots of different things. My job isn't just one thing, and I don't like lots and lots of detail, lots and lots of analysis. There's obviously parts of my role that requires that, but I like the kind of the broader, the sort of variety of what I get to do. Technology is transforming the way in which we work, and it's really coming at a pace. And I don't think, especially now in the future, people's jobs are not going to stay the same for very long. So people really need to be, I think, digitally literate. And I think for younger generations, and I don't class myself in that, keeping up to speed with all of the kind of the technology and the changes that are going on around you is really, really important, because that is changing the way in which we do work. And I think what people need really to be these days is adaptable. They need to be able to to shift and learn new things, and I think they need to be able to communicate with people really, really well, and be enthusiastic and embrace change and new ways of doing things, because ultimately, nothing will stay the same. And that whether that's HR, whether that's finance, whether that's engineering, what we're seeing now is that jobs are changing because of technology, and people who struggle are the ones that struggle with change and struggle to adapt. And I think that getting into that mindset of, actually, I will do a job and I might only do this for 2 years and then I'll move on to something different, or my job will change. That's going to be the future way of work, and that's okay, because actually you will constantly learn. Historically, people have gone to college or university, they've got a degree, they've learned for 4 or 5 years, they've got a job, and then they kind of stop learning in a way. You know, they stay in that job and in that career for the next 15, 20, 30 years. That's not the case anymore. You know, you will need to constantly learn all of the time, constantly be open to new ways of doing things, better ways of doing things. You know, I didn't really know what I wanted to do until I was 25, I would say. And at that point, I think I also felt that all the experiences that I'm gathering up until that point is still forming who I am today. And I think that's a good thing. I think everything that you do, you can take learning from, whether that's in a kind of a job sense, whether that's in a sporting sense. You know, I played a lot of tennis when I was younger, and I think, you know, just working as part of a team, you know, whether that's doubles, whether that's kind of a group of people playing against other clubs, that teaches you an awful lot about the types of skills that, you know, you don't appreciate at the time, but you really draw on them when you get into the world of work. So I think whatever you do, don't confine your interest to one thing. Try to learn about lots of different things, lots of different people. And it's okay not to necessarily know exactly what it is you want to do. You're going to be in work for a very long time, and actually the world of work is going to change. And I think I read somewhere that lots of children who are in primary school at the moment, 70% of them will be doing jobs that don't currently exist at the moment. So, you know, I think if you can really focus on, you know, learning skills that are around, you know, problem solving, communicating, collaborating, being adaptable, and if you're curious about the world around you, if you always want to have a thirst for learning and learning all sorts of things, really be interested in digital and technical, you know, that's going to stand you in really, really good stead. And I suppose we see it in HR because, you know, we're responsible for recruiting people, and we interview lots of people all the time, and some of them are very one-dimensional. You know, they might have a strong academic record, but actually they don't necessarily convey passion. They don't convey that they've got sort of broader interests. They aren't able to demonstrate the different experiences they've had of working with others. You know, and that's not necessarily what employers are looking for these days. You know, yes, we need to know that, you know, you're competent, but actually we're interested in you as a person and an individual as well. Interestingly, I applied for a graduate program in finance because I quite liked figures, and I decided probably accountancy would be a route that I wanted to pursue. And I got to the final stages of the interview, and I was being interviewed by a gentleman who said, have you ever considered a career in HR? And I did think to myself, I'm not sure how well this interview is going if he's actually asking me whether or not I should work in HR instead of finance. But he made me start thinking that actually, you know, when I started to speak to people who were accountants and what they did day to day, what they were describing to me was probably definitely the last thing that that would stimulate and engage me. So I tried to kind of speak to people to understand, look, what is it that you do in your job day to day? You know, what is it that interests you? And when my mum's friends actually worked in HR with the police, she was HR director there actually, and she just spoke about, you know, variety. There's lots of different things that she does every day. And so I started exploring that more, and I decided to do a master's in human resource management, and I condensed it into 1 year. And alongside that, I worked in cafes, in restaurants to kind of support myself. I moved back in with my mum and dad, which I'm sure they didn't probably appreciate that much. And then my first job was a temping job doing HR administration, which, you know, at the time I had to have some kind of experience in HR on my CV before I could apply for something that, you know, I thought was probably more commensurate with the qualifications that I then had. So it was a temp job, and I think I actually didn't even start in the HR department. I started in another part of the business, and you know, I was just data inputting, and I was talking to people. They found out that I'd done HR, and then a job came up in the HR team, so I moved into that team. worked there for 6 weeks, and then my first job was as a HR officer in Tata Steel. Well, it was British Steel, became Tata Steel, and that's kind of where I started my HR career. Believe in yourselves and be confident, because confidence takes you a very, very long way. And what I found, especially as you start to work at a more senior level, and people that I've looked up to, when I start working alongside them, everyone has, they might come across as confident, but everyone has feelings of not being confident in certain situations, things that they don't like doing. And that might even be, presenting to large audiences. I work with two very senior people who have to do it regularly, who absolutely hate it. They despise it. So don't assume that everyone knows everything, because a lot of the time they don't. But if they believe, actually, I'll get through it and I'm good enough and I can get better, and they can kind of portray confidence, that goes such a long way. And confidence breeds confidence, I think, as well. So, believe in yourselves. If you work hard, if you try hard, if you're curious, if you're willing to learn, if you're passionate and enthusiastic, you will be successful in whatever you choose to do.